In our presentation today, I will be walking you through why Acme Incorporated should be using cloud computing to deal with several of its business and IT strategies. In our current situation, we are looking at a 5% continued growth for the next fiscal year. And what that results in is not enough capacity in our Springfield data center to meet the current demand. This also means that it's impacting our ability to innovate and to deliver services in an agile manner. What we are recommending is to use cloud computing for all new business demands and to develop a strategy to reduce the Springfield data center footprint on Acme operations. With this target state, we will gain a 31% cost savings on IT resources. We will save over $2 million over a 3-year period, and we will increase our business agility to enter the Icelandic and Taiwan markets in 2018. In order to introduce cloud computing, I would like for you to think of it as the concept of a utility service. So similar to how you would consume electricity from a hydro provider or gas, the concept is that you only pay for the amount of services that you require. So you do not have to invest into providing all of the facilities, the infrastructure setup that provides the gas to you as a utility, and that you focus mainly on the consumption aspect. Another analogy that can be used is the traditional as a pizza concept, where what we're doing is identifying that in using the analogy of pizza, we're saying that on the far left, on traditional on-premise, the idea is that you would have to be responsible for all areas of providing the ability to create pizza, which means that you must invest in things such as an oven, the electric gas, the fire, etc. So things that you must be responsible for, regardless of the amount of capacity that you actually require. With cloud, the concept is that as you move from infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, to software as a service, the responsibility of those infrastructure and platform capabilities are transferred over to a cloud service provider. With cloud computing, we're gaining economies of scale, on-demand provisioning, elasticity, and it's going to enable faster, more dynamic services. We have lower capital investments, and we can also see an increase in security. So professional auditing and assessment of the provider security processes are key considerations. Now, if we apply a technical lens to the same concept, we're looking at in a traditional IT environment, what we're talking about are the applications, the data, the runtime, the middleware, the operating system, virtualization, servers, storage, and networking. And again, as we move from traditional IT to the concept of infrastructure as a service, we see that the cloud service provider are responsible for the areas in gray. And moving to the right, in platform as a services, we see that the cloud service provider becomes more responsible for different areas related to the infrastructure and to the platform. And to the far right, we see in software as a service, basically what we're identifying that you are being provided with access to a service, and the cloud service provider is responsible for the operations, the infrastructure, the facilities that are required in order to enable the service. The basic capabilities of the cloud are circled. So what we identify is that it has broad network access, meaning that you can access the services no matter where you are, as long as you have internet connectivity. Rapid elasticity, so that's the concept of the ability to scale up or scale up on demand. Measured service, so again, if we're looking at a subscription service, we want to be able to measure the amount of usage. On demand self-service. So this changes the operational model and the role of IT resources. So basically you can get access or request access to services through a self-service on-demand model. And then of course resource pooling. So it's the sharing of resources that exist that can provide multiple cloud consumers or customers or clients access to cloud services. So the advantages and disadvantages of cloud computing. So the primary advantages that are often seen are cost savings, the speed of delivery, scalable, and mobile. The disadvantages would be internet connectivity, security, privacy, cloud service provider, service disruption. So what this identifies is that with cloud, one of the immediate objectives is to look at how this impacts your costs, but another key aspect is around the concept of agility, so the speed of delivery. So there are quantitative and qualitative advantages and disadvantages. The disadvantage, everything must go through an internet connection. So as far as being on-premise, there is a dependency on the ability for your network to have continual connectivity. I can introduce some security and privacy concerns. So as it's using shared pooled resources, there are some concerns that your data may or may not be exposed to additional third parties. And with the cloud service provider model, what you're doing is you're basically requiring on them to ensure that your availability needs are constantly met. So some of the common cloud myths. So the main one is that you should use the public cloud for everything. So there are scenarios, use cases that are not applicable for the cloud. So you must do proper analysis to determine what workloads are really suitable for the cloud. Data is less secure in the cloud. So in all reality, the cloud service providers actually have more investments to actually make their data centers more secure. So a lot of the times the data is actually highly more secure than it is in a corporate data center. Outsourcing to cloud is all about the cost savings. So again, we talked about how there are qualitative and quantitative attributes, and we need to also factor in the concepts of greater agility, faster time to market, etc., the things that can't always be identified by immediate financial values. In our analysis of the economic implications, so what we've identified was based upon our current IT infrastructure needs, that if we poured it to the cloud using Amazon Web Services or AWS, we've identified that requesting the same type of technical capabilities would be that we would identify a 31% savings a year by moving our infrastructure to AWS. And this would result in over a 3-year period of over $2 million in cost savings. If we look at our IT budget view on our current on-premise approach, and if we compare that to the estimated costs related to cloud, we're identifying that we have significant savings in all of the key areas related to our operating budget and our capital budget. If we focus on a return on investment view, we're identifying that if we factor in the gain from the investment, if we include the cost savings that we will provide, the new capacity for additional business, meaning that we will be able to meet the Icelandic and Taiwan markets in 2018. And then if we also consider these increased savings related to the facilities that we will be reducing or avoiding, that would total out to about $8 million. The cost of our investment is roughly $5 million. And again, if we divide that by the existing cost of the investment, which was roughly $5 million, we come out with a return on investment of 60%, which is highly favorable for Acme Incorporated. Again, when we look at the IT business requirements that we should be considering, we need to break them down into functional and non-functional requirements. In the functional requirements, there are the known things such as the business rules, the business processes that must be followed, the administrative functions, authentication, the need for external interfaces, and we also must take into account things such as the legal or regulatory requirements that Acme Incorporated must adhere to. When we look at the non-functional requirements, here's where we're looking at things that are more based upon the performance, the scalability, the capacity of the services that we need to provide. Again, focusing on the IT business requirements, we are identifying that we must account for the IT strategy, our IT processes, our business processes, and our resourcing. So moving to the cloud will require us to invest more in building or maturing our additional processes and procedures. When we look at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that cloud could provide to us, some of the key strengths that are identified would be the obvious lower cost savings, the ability to have increased scalability and elasticity, and we would be provided with a secure infrastructure. However, we must balance that with some of the weakness, such as the integration with existing applications for Acme Incorporated and new training requirements for staff. However, this also brings in opportunities such as the ability to meet future demands for new business, such as our Icelandic and Taiwan markets, and the ability to resolve immediate pressures related to our infrastructure capacity. There are also some threats that we must take into account, such as privacy concerns. This being a new process, there could be unknown hidden costs that we need to account for, and unknown data migration expense. So what we are recommending is that we adopt a cloud-first model to reduce the immediate data center pressures, and the second recommendation is to define a cloud strategy that meets our business goals. We also need to identify that without a strategy, that we will lack the ability to have this done in a concerted effort, and we would be focusing on individual deliverables, individual needs, instead of looking at the broader strategic enterprise goals. So we need to structure our approach with a defined strategy that takes into account the financial aspects of our business requirements, and also takes into account the functional and non-functional needs of what we need to do in order to be competitive for Acme Incorporated. Thank you.